Pregame.com.
NFL totals. It's week 2 of the NFL. It's Steven. Last week, overs ruled the day.
12-3-1.
We talked about it last week. We kind of disagreed a little bit, and I said normally week 1 of the NFL has traditionally been unders because, teams, now you're playing your starters for 4 quarters. So, the offense is on the field for 4 quarters, but so is the, defense. So you have lower scoring and teams still aren't in total continuity. But I said I felt this week that because of the lockout, there was going to be more overs. I thought that there would be blown assignments, missed tackles. We saw both of that. What we really didn't expect, and it was one of the things that most people thought might aid to the unders, was the change in the kickoff rule. Well, because of all these missed tackles and everything, poor tackling, I should say, we had special teams really were dominant in week 1. We had, 3 special teams touchdowns?
Well, 3 kickoffs returned for touchdowns, despite the new kickoff rule. Marco, good call. My compliments to you. We did disagree with that. You thought there would be more overs, and I thought the under would maybe be a little more in play. Although it's 2 horrific bad beats on unders I had with the Bengals in the Browns, not tackling Cedric Benson after he got that first down, and then in that Seattle 49er game with the 2 long returns.
If you didn't see that, anybody that had Seattle, San Francisco under, they had to want to just puke at the end of that game. That was a stone cold under that entire ball game. Seattle scores a touchdown, deep into the 4th quarter, kicks off. It's still an under. San Francisco's going to play, chew the clock up, try to end the game. They give up a kick off return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
San Francisco kicks off. Seattle goes 3 and out, punts.
Yeah, it was brutal. Ginn had more return yardage than the Seattle and San Francisco had offensive yardage. But we learned things from this week 1. We learned, and this was your point. You said it ahead of time that missed tackles would be more of a factor than pass blocking. The pass blocking was better than the defense. The defense, too many missed tackles. And also, what I think a lot of people missed with special teams, especially kickoffs, they're all so intent on the new kickoff rule kicking off from the 30 instead of, the 35 from the 30, where it's going farther in the end zone, more touchbacks. These teams didn't get to practice their tackling on kickoff returns during the preseason because there were so many of these. The result was 3 touchdowns returned on kickoffs. So when they brought the ball out, the special teams were below the curve because of this rule.
Absolutely.
But Vegas odds makers have adjusted. Mark, I'm sure you've picked up on this. Overs now are close to 3 points higher than they were last week if you culminate all the games and figure them out. That's a big adjustment to the over. So I think this week you got to look more under.
Well, I commented on Tuesday. I do, and I hope guys are following it in the forums. I post it every day. I do it early in the morning. It's the betting first look. And I do it on the games going that day. But on Tuesday, what I like to do is, because the lines come out on Monday, and then they get a little bit of play from not the public, but what we like to refer to as the sharps, because we've talked about it many times. The public is not betting a Saturday or Sunday football game on Tuesday. They don't like to have their money tied up that long. But the sharps want the best numbers that are out there. Guys in Vegas that make a living betting, they're out there pounding the pavement on Tuesdays. And what I saw happen Monday, and when I talked about this on Tuesday, is there were, I think, 7 or 8 NFL totals that had already moved 2 points from the opening total. That the wise guys are just jumping on saying Vegas isn't adjusting this quick enough, and they took the value. Now, is the value gone? Because Vegas did make an adjustment up, but in their eyes it wasn't up enough, and now the wise guys have hit these numbers, so now the numbers are touched up even more. Is the value gone? We're going to have to wait and see.
I would think, Barkle, the value is still going to be there, but now you're going to have to go the other way and wait close to post. When the public gets involved on the weekend, they're going to be betting overs. They're not going to be betting unders. Mm-hmm. So I have some opinions on games that they'll be included among my picks. on these totals, but I'm going to be holding off just to see how high these things get, and then playing it the other way, because you're going to have some value.
Well, there's no question that the things I talked about last week, the missed tackling and the missed assignments, those are going to get better, as you're playing. That's for sure. But there is one trend that I'm seeing more teams going to, and I think that's still going to have a good bearing on the totals. The most successful team, let's face it, is the New England Patriots. I mean, the franchise, the organization. I mean, I can argue the Steelers have, a successful franchise and organization. You can't.
Okay, but they're a good example. New England.
New England. Mm-hmm. People are copying what New England's doing. In New England, it's like their running game is the short passing game. They're spreading the offense out, making you go wide, and then they're using those little pass plays as running games to keep the ball moving. They're successful with it. If you can't beat them, you join them. And what I saw in the first week is more offenses are running that type of offense. And as we see that continue to go, until defenses figure a way to shut that down, you're going to see more teams doing it. It makes the game go at a faster pace. You're moving the chains, you're moving the ball. It's something that I think is going to have a bearing. All of the rule changes and the way they've taken away the severe hits and everything is forcing the league to a more offensive-oriented league. So there's going to be more scoring. That's what the league's trying to do. And with these different styles of offense, until they combat it, I don't think you're going to see the old Pittsburgh Steelers offenses around very much, where they're running the ball the way they used to.
I agree with some of what you're saying, Marco, but I don't think you can just make a blanket statement. I think it still comes down to the personnel of each team. New England is a great example of your illustration. They have the personnel to do that. They actually have 2 tight ends that can get downfield. How many teams have that? Some teams don't even have 1 tight end that can get downfield to catch a pass. You're also now having some defensive-minded coaches that have become head coaches at other places. John Fox, Ron Rivera, these guys, Jim Harbaugh. These guys are run-oriented, defensive-minded type coaches with limited quarterbacks. So, your illustration of New England, yes, certainly they are like that. They have the personnel to do that. But I think you really have to take it from a matchup standpoint and deal with each individual team.
Well, you definitely need a quarterback, but the rule changes are, look at Henne for Miami on Monday. He, if you would have just looked at his stats for the game, what would you think the result would have been? You would have thought Miami won the game, the numbers he put up.
Put up very good numbers.
But it was against New England, and they put up, better numbers. So it's going to be something we're going to have to watch, and I agree with you. You still need a quarterback, and this is becoming a league. But when you can have a team like Carolina bring a quarterback in that, hasn't taken a down in the NFL and performed the way he did, even Cincinnati's quarterback, he comes in and plays well.
I think, though, you can misread the situation with Newton and even with Cincinnati's quarterback to an extent. Arizona in that game surrendered 422 yards to Newton. But I think a lot of that was defensive game planning, which turned out to be wrong. They wanted to key on D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. They figured Newton is just too inaccurate to beat us. We're going to stop their run game. Well, you give Newton that much, you don't double team Steve Smith, and you let Newton, you don't key on him, and he hits a long one to Steve Smith. It opens things up. So, again, I think they probably learned their lesson in that regard, Arizona.
I will say one thing, and you and me are both old school. We're both just plain old, okay? But it was a given that you drafted a quarterback. That guy never saw the playing field for 2-3 years in the NFL. Yeah. That was an absolute automatic.
Yeah.
It has changed. The quarterbacks that we've had come into the league and start early and do what they've done, it's changed the landscape of how teams, look at these franchise quarterbacks. They don't, nurture them anymore. They're throwing them in there under the fire because they're paying them all this money.
With free agency, they can leave after a few years. You got to get your money's worth.
That's the problem.
Yeah, we didn't have that in the old days.
No, you were loyal. You were with the team. You were there forever. But it's changing the game, and I don't think we'll see it anymore. See the old style anymore. And they're amazing me that they're able to come in and see some of these guys do what they're doing so early. Now they're obviously going to make mistakes, and mistakes work both ways, and that's another thing that factors in to over-unders. If you turn the ball over at the other team's 10-yard line, well, now you're looking at an under because you chewed up a lot of clock to get down there, and then you turn over when you're ready to score. But when you turn it over for a pick six, or you turn it over deep in your own territory, results in a quick, score, turnovers can, go the other way. So with all these young quarterbacks in there, yeah, they're going to put up some numbers and be flashy, but they're also going to make mistakes. And usually when they make a mistake, it's a big one the other way. So that's going to have a bearing on totals too. So I think it's you got to watch this, but I'm a little bit hesitant on taking the unders right now with the way things are going, but it's always ebb and flow in the NFL. You're going to see something. Odds makers are going to react to it. The public's going to react to what they saw, and it'll drive a line out of the other direction, and then the value will come back, like you said.
Look at San Diego, New England this week. By far the highest total, and it's like runaway inflation. That thing is going to get higher and higher and higher. Now, in this instance, I'm certainly not going to play an over with it that high, but I'm not necessarily running to go play that under. But look at how high that's going to get inflation-wise.
With what we saw in the preseason with New England, what we saw last year with their offense, and what they showed Monday night, could you really ever bet an under and feel comfortable with a New England game? It's tough. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it's the mentality of gamblers that they don't want to bet unders because they just can't sit there and root for defense, and they feel no matter what the score is, it could be 10-0 at halftime and the over/under's 44. They still think they have a shot because anything can happen. But like the San Diego or the San Francisco, Seattle.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for bringing that one up again. But let's say that gets up to 56, 57, or some ungodly total in an NFL game. You're looking at a San Diego defense, which it's different now. They got new players, and they're still statistically last year #1 in total defense. New England, very explosive offense, but it's not a real quick strike type of offense. Unless somebody blows a coverage like on Wes Welker for 99 yards, but it's quick slant passes. It's moving methodically down the field with short passes. San Diego's probably going to be conservative, on the road. They've got two good running backs,
unless they fall behind early. If they fall behind by 2 scores, then you can't go with that game plan. Then you got to have Phillip Rivers gunslinging, and you end up having a 30.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not rushing to go bet that one under, but I'm certainly not going to play it over with that high of a total.
I hear you, but definitely in the coming weeks, there's definitely going to be value in the unders. That's what we're saying. They will make the adjustments, but, it's just like the stock market. You want to buy low and sell high. It's our jobs as handicappers to find when the stuff hits those, peaks and valleys for us to take advantage of it.
Do you think the government will ever figure out that this is kind of like similar to a stock market, and it's just investments and it should be legal?
We can't get them to legalize online poker, okay? Poker, a game that everybody, it's... Don't get me started. Okay. Our government,
Sorry. I just get frustrated myself. The stupidity.
It is. And legalize it and tax it, and you've got, that's a whole nother debate. He's Stephen Nover. I'm Marco D'Angelo. I hope you enjoyed our talk on NFL totals. We'll be back next week. We'll have a full slate of games for you once again, and any other pertinent topics of the week next week. Have a great week. Good luck this weekend.